It's that time of the month where we talk communication with Margot Halbert from Positive Persuasion. I caught up with Margot to find out about the impact and importance of body language in our public speaking.
Oh, Lisa, the most often quoted research on this is from a university in the US that looked at how do we interpret a message, and they found that really the words that we use are only about 7% of the meaning that people attach. So if you ask me, for example, how am I? And if I went, I'm fine, thanks, then the words don't match what it is that, potentially the message that you received.
Yes.
And the bigger impact is the tone of voice, which I think we might talk about at another time. But the big impact, over 53%, is visual. The message that people receive, they determine from what you are visually communicating. And so that comes down to your body language. Okay. So if over half the message people are going to interpret from the visual message you're communicating, it's vitally important that you manage that and that it is congruent with what you're intending to say. So if I said, I'm fine, thanks, then you would expect that some body language with that might be a smile and some warmth in my body position.
Yes. Can you give us some ideas about specific body language to employ while we are actually presenting?
Yes, in any communication, the most critical one that I find for people is to think about their body stance. I suggest to people they do something that I call the power stance. So your feet about shoulder width apart, and if anybody's done Pilates or your core, that your inner core, your belly and all that, just feels very strong. So you keep, and the other thing I suggest is imagine, if you've got hair, pull up a piece of hair like you're a puppet, and just feel yourself feel very straight in that position. So that says very strong and in control.
I would imagine that would assist with breathing as well.
Yes, absolutely. And the other thing, Lisa, that I find really works, people always go, but when I stand up and I have to present, what do I do with my hands? Well, another technique I get people to do is raise your hands right up to the top like you're doing a great big stretch and drop your hands down to the side. And that's ideal, and people go, oh, it feels a bit uncomfortable, it feels unnatural. And I go, yes, it does, but look in the mirror and then start to just practice getting more familiar with that. It's just that they're unfamiliar. So ideally your hands by your side, and if you are presenting, to hold something like the laser pointers or the slide projectors. Or if you're at a lectern, then again you have your body position open, so your arms as open as possible. And they're the key things, so your stance, keeping your body open, and then your facial expressions. That is so important. The most critical would be your eye contact. And I find that particularly when people first start, I've coached a number of senior people, they come out onto stage and they forget the first place that they're putting their eyes is on their notes. Rather than really greeting the audience warmly, just really own that spot in the first few seconds, greet the audience with your eye contact, and if appropriate, fantastic, the more you can smile, because the audience is going to mirror back to you.
So creating a connection, and they're the reason why we're here anyway, if we're presenting.
Yes, it's connecting, and I just take people to a social setting. If you're, going to meet people for the first time, how do you respond to people? And what do you like to respond to? Because when you're presenting and communicating, you're trying to build rapport so that you relate to one another. So what's normal in a social setting? Well, you smile, you have open gestures.
Yeah.
And they're the things. The stance is particularly important, and I find that more so for women too. They'll often lean on one leg, something like that, and it's not as powerful. Look, not that you want to look regimented, but you just want to look strong and comfortable and in control.
It's occurred to me, Margot, we may be actually affected by the body language our audience are portraying to us. If someone's, sitting there with their arms folded and perhaps not looking that interested, or there's a sense that they really don't want to be there, can we actually assist them to come into a better space, perhaps by putting a little bit more focus on them with eye contact and that sort of thing?
Certainly that can work. But we do need to be mindful that different audiences behave in different ways.
Right.
So for some people, if there's not a sense of rapport or they may feel uncomfortable, if you focus on them too much, then that can intimidate them. But certainly the techniques you're talking about can work. what your purpose is always to build rapport. So the more that you can connect, but recognising that some people are going to feel uncomfortable. Like for some people, eye contact is quite threatening.
Right.
So I typically find, after a little while with an audience, you can gradually get closer and closer to them in that way.
Margot, there's the whole concept of different people learning in different ways. There's auditory, visual and kinesthetic.
Yes.
I remember once listening to a speaker in a fairly small room, and they made the comment, now it's okay, all you kinesthetic people, I'll have something for you in a minute. And a few minutes later, they actually went and touched the curtains that were sort of behind them while they were talking, and then they came back up to the lectern. And I just thought to myself, well, perhaps that's what they were doing for the kinesthetic learners. I don't know. It was just this random thing, and they'd actually commented that they'd be doing something. What do you think about that?
Oh, look, I'd need more information about it. But yes, in terms of the kinesthetic, they want experience. So often, getting them to practice something, me talking to you now about body language, well, a kinesthetic learner is going to go, well, okay, show me, let me experience it. Yeah. That's how they will learn, whereas a more auditory listener and learner will love this sort of forum.
That was me talking with Margot Halbert from Positive Persuasion about body language and its impact in public speaking. You can find more information at positivepersuasion.com.au or check out our website burningdownthehouse.org, where we have their contact details.